Xiao Zhan's voice trembled as he said it, "I've moved on." Those 3 words silenced the room. Fans gasped, reporters froze, and even his closest friends stared in disbelief. It was supposed to be a normal interview, nothing more than a promotional event. But that sentence, it felt like a goodbye, like a door slamming shut forever. People thought the story between Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo had ended right there. But no one expected what happened next. Because just when everyone thought Xiao Zhan had moved on, Wang Yibo made a move that left the entire world stunned. Let's rewind a little. For months, rumors had been circling, whispers of distance, of silence, of 2 stars walking on completely different paths. Xiao Zhan focused on his solo projects, dazzling audiences with his performances, his charm, and his unshakable smile. Meanwhile, Wang Yibo poured his energy into his own career, fiercely independent, racing on his motorbike, taking on bold acting roles, and leaving fans breathless with every step. The media painted them as strangers now. Headlines screamed about separation, about how time had changed them. And Xiao Zhan's "I've moved on" seemed like the final confirmation. Fans' hearts cracked, thinking the bond they once believed in had faded away completely. But then, something unexpected happened. A week after that interview, Wang Yibo appeared on stage at an award show. The audience was buzzing, he looked calm, collected, untouchable. Yet when he accepted his trophy, he paused, staring at the microphone for a long, heavy moment. The crowd grew restless. What was he waiting for? And then, in front of thousands of people, Wang Yibo said words no one saw coming. "Some things, you don't just move on from." The room erupted. The internet exploded. Within seconds, clips of his speech were flooding social media. Was this a message to Xiao Zhan? Was this Wang Yibo's way of saying he wasn't ready to let go? But that wasn't all. Hours later, fans noticed something strange. Wang Yibo, who rarely posts online, suddenly uploaded a picture. It wasn't a selfie, it wasn't a promotional poster. It was something simple, a photo of a place that looked oddly familiar. A small cafe, dimly lit, with wooden chairs and a single vase of flowers by the window. Fans connected the dots instantly. This was the exact same cafe Xiao Zhan had been photographed in just weeks earlier. The speculation was unstoppable. Was this a coincidence? Or was Wang Yibo sending a message straight to Xiao Zhan, one that only he would truly understand? Meanwhile, Xiao Zhan tried to keep his composure. Reporters hounded him, asking if he had seen Wang Yibo's speech, if he had noticed the cafe post. At first, he smiled politely, brushing off the questions. But one evening, during a live broadcast, something slipped. A fan asked casually in the comments, "Do you think some things are impossible to move on from?" Xiao Zhan paused. He lowered his gaze, his usually bright expression softening. After a long silence, he whispered, "Maybe I was wrong to say I moved on." The internet went wild. Fans screamed, cried, and celebrated all at once. Was this the moment everyone had been waiting for? And then it happened, the move that shook everything. At a major concert, Xiao Zhan performed a new song for the first time. The lyrics were raw, emotional, filled with longing and vulnerability. But the true shock came when the screen behind him lit up. The visuals weren't random. They were filled with images of motorcycles, racing lights, and a silhouette that looked unmistakably like Wang Yibo. The audience erupted in tears, screams, and disbelief. It wasn't just a performance, it was a message. And everyone knew it. Just hours later, Wang Yibo broke his silence again. He appeared at the after party, walking straight into the crowd with a determined look. Cameras flashed, fans screamed, but his focus never wavered. He went up to Xiao Zhan, in front of everyone, and for the first time in months, the two of them spoke, face to face. No one knows exactly what was said that night. The words were drowned out by music, laughter, and the chaos of the crowd. But the pictures told a story all on their own. Xiao Zhan smiling, Wang Yibo leaning in, both of them laughing together as if the world around them had disappeared. Fans didn't need confirmation. They didn't need a press release or a headline. That moment alone told the truth. Maybe Xiao Zhan had tried to move on, maybe he thought he could. But when Wangi Ba made his move, everything changed. And so the story continues, not as an ending, but as something new, something powerful, something no one saw coming. Xiao Zhan said he had moved on, but Wangi Ba's actions proved that some connections are too strong to break, too real to ignore, and too unforgettable to ever truly leave behind. Because sometimes, moving on isn't the end. Sometimes, it's just the beginning of something greater. But that wasn't the end. What happened after that night kept everyone talking for weeks. The internet became a battlefield of emotions. Hashtags about Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo trended non-stop. Some fans cried with joy, convinced this was the proof they had been waiting for. Others were skeptical, asking if it was all just coincidence, a staged show to stir attention. But deep down, people knew this wasn't scripted. The way Xiao Zhan's smile lingered, the way Wang Yibo leaned closer than he ever had before, it looked real, raw, and impossible to fake. Behind the cameras, industry insiders whispered that something had changed. Those who worked close to them noticed it. Wang Yibo wasn't as cold and distant anymore, and Xiao Zhan wasn't hiding behind polite answers. There was a shift, a spark, like two people who had rediscovered something they thought was lost. And then came the most surprising detail of all. A fan spotted them leaving the same building late at night, not as celebrities with cameras flashing, but as two ordinary men walking side by side. They weren't laughing loudly, they weren't performing for anyone. They were just, together. That single moment sent the world into chaos. Because for all the staged lights and scripted interviews, that late-night walk felt more real than anything. Still, not everything was easy. The pressure grew heavier with every headline. The media demanded answers, fans wanted confirmation, and rumors twisted the truth into endless versions of the same story. Xiao Zhan remained calm, offering his usual gentle smile, while Wang Yibo stayed firm, refusing to let the noise shake him. But even in silence, their actions spoke louder than any words. One day, during a fan meet, Xiao Zhan was asked to describe the most important lesson he had learned in recent years. He thought for a long moment before replying, that sometimes, when you think something is gone, it's only waiting for you to see it again. The crowd erupted. Everyone knew what he meant. Soon after, Wang Yibo gave his own answer in a different interview. When asked what kept him motivated, he simply said, "Some things are worth fighting for." And though he didn't mention names, the message was clear. It became impossible to ignore. The connection was alive, stronger than ever. Not because of headlines, not because of staged moments, but because of the way they chose to keep showing up, again and again. And maybe that's the real story here. Xiao Zhan once said he had moved on, and maybe he believed it at the time. But Wang Yibo's actions proved that sometimes moving on doesn't mean forgetting. Sometimes it means growing, changing, and finding your way back to what truly matters. For the fans, this wasn't just about two stars, it was about hope, about believing that even when things look broken, there's always a chance for something new to bloom. And for Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo, this was no longer about rumors or noise.